This is my dear friend Chip Conley. Oh, and Chip and I, I've been so inspired by Chip in so many ways. Um, well, Chip, how about, speaking from essence, how about, would you willing to share the extraordinary life journey that you've been on, and then how we came to connect? And
I'll be brief. I'll be brief
yeah,
because
please don't be too brief. I want people to understand. I mean, look, I don't think you need my shining a light on you in the sense that you're already so, you know, well appreciated by so many people. But I would like to think that there may be some people watching this that don't know you.
of
And
course.
yeah. And so for those people who don't know you, what could you share?
Well, long story short is that my job in life has been to understand the unrecognized needs of people and then try to create either businesses or nonprofits that support those. And I'm best known for being a hospitality entrepreneur, one of the first boutique hoteliers in the world, and then or in the United States, and then one of the first people to join Airbnb's founders to help them grow Airbnb into the big company it is today. But more recently, and part of the reason that Danny and I know each other is because of the Modern Elder Academy, also known as MEA, which is the world's first midlife wisdom school that's dedicated to helping people to not just have a focus on lifelong learning, but to focus on long life learning. And long life learning means that you're creating a life that's as deep and meaningful as it is long, because lifelong learning is not the same at age 30 and age 70.
Yeah.
And so long life learning really speaks to the idea of like what is your path in life, and what are the key issues that you face in midlife and beyond. And Danny and I have a common fascination and love of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And so I've written 5 books, and one of them was called Peak: How Great Companies Get Their Mojo from Maslow,
Yeah.
applying Maslow's hierarchy of needs to organizations.
Yeah.
And then my most recent book was called Wisdom at Work: The Making of a Modern Elder, which led me to creating the Modern Elder Academy. And well, Danny, all I can say is that separated at birth,
Yeah. Just
different continents, different years,
yeah.
but more importantly, just the sense of connection.
Yeah.
There's a guy named, I'm spacing on his name, who wrote Howard's End. I can't remember his name right now. And he said, E.M. Forster.
Yeah.
And he wrote at the epigraph of this book, he said, only connect.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how he started the book, Howard's End, only connect. And I think the thing I love about you, Danny, is that your appetite
Yeah.
and energy for connection
Yeah.
on all levels, connection with yourself, connection with the person sitting in front of you, connection with a field of people in a room, connection with all sentient beings, all animals, and just all things, and everything beyond what we know, the mystery. Your connection is really what defines you, is that sense of connection.
Well, Chip, I thank you. I just, I love you. We had this blessed time down together at the Modern Elder Academy, and I really thank you for the invitation. It was the biggest honor to come down there and actually co-lead a Leading Well from Within retreat for a week. And it was a mashup of your work. You allowed me to slide my work into your work, which was really the Modern Elder Academy curriculum, which is, I want people to know just how extraordinary that is. And it's not lost on me that I've actually, with my diagnosis, I may have actually moved into being a poster child
for the Modern Elder.
The Modern Elder. And in so many ways, what you've been talking about, because you have this, first of all, I just want to encourage, if anybody ever gets a chance to come down, to go to those retreats, please go down. It's in Baja. It's one of the most extraordinary experiences of my life. I want you to know it's just such an extraordinary experience. And it's extraordinary because really of Chip's, you know, there are a few things over here. Like if I may sing your praises, Chip.
Go for it.
So, you know, I'm really impressed, you know, that first of all, you come from the hospitality, you wrote, you know, you had one of the largest boutique chains, Joie de Vie. I mean, it was an iconic brand. And then when you sold that, you were asked to be the global head of strategy for Airbnb. And you tell the story about how you were sitting in, and if I may just be a little bit profane, you were sitting like in your first meeting and you were saying, what the fuck am I doing here? I'm in brick and mortar. This is a tech company, right?
Well, and I was also twice the age of the average.
Exactly. You were twice. So what your epiphany, and this I think was a beautiful epiphany, which was you realized, you coined the term mentern, like, you know, a mentor and an intern at the same time. And, you know, you understood you had a fair amount to learn about tech, but you also understood that they had a fair amount to learn from you about social and emotional intelligence. And in fact, it's my understanding that you created, most people are familiar with the Belong Anywhere slogan for Airbnb.
I co-created it.
Okay, so
I don't deserve full credit for that.
Okay, and you know, it's not lost on me, you co-created that, but it's not lost on me that in Maslow, you know, you're talking about the safety frame and then you go to love and belonging, and then it's significant. So I think however that unfolded, your love for Maslow found its way into Airbnb. Is that fair to say?
It's actually, what's fair to say is that the three founders, young co-founders who are 21 to 23 years younger than me, reached out to me, not just because I was a moderately well-known hospitality person based in San Francisco, but also because they'd read my book Peak and the book about Maslow. And they said, we want a company and a culture like what you describe in that book, the Maslowian culture. So so yes, it was part of the reason I ended up there, part of the reason that 8 years later I'm still involved, and the company goes public on the NASDAQ exchange 2 days from now.
Oh, so that's exciting time. That's an exciting time, and I'm happy for you. So the evolution into the Modern Elder Academy, you built this just gorgeous. I mean, you're from hospitality, so
we have to talk about you at some point. Come on, my friend.
I've been talking about me for
you're tired of yourself, but some people aren't. So okay, well, go ahead. Okay. One or two more questions, but then we're talking about you.
Okay. So so you built this gorgeous. I mean, it is just it's sumptuous. If I can just say, you go down there and you've got a feel for hospitality. So every detail, it's an immersion. And the other thing is, when you invited me to come down, it wasn't lost on me that you wanted to actually invite down people that you wanted to mentor with, you know?
Yes.
So the experts that you're bringing down there it's a rich exchange of ongoing learning. So, you know, long life learning. Yes. Am I right?
That's right.
That's what I had a sense of. And so I've been speaking about you already in the channel. In Living Well From Within, it's because I love to talk about, you know, the heart of that program was the talking circle. I would say that the heart of the program is this talking circle. And we meet every morning, and it's raw. It's really raw. And you speak about the 3 vaults. You speak about the 3 vaults. And the first vault is, you know, the safest vault of all, the facts of your life. And the second vault is deeper. It's how we make meaning of our life. The third vault,
the stories.
Yeah, the stories we tell ourselves. And then the third vault is the rawest vault of all. It's essence. It's just talking from essence. And I feel that's the vault we're in right now. You know, we're just talking, we're just riffing. And by the way, so, you know, one of the
so if we're in essence, then I want to just say, I love you. And I love your receding hairline on your left-hand side.
Well, you know what happened is that
I know what happened. I've seen the video. So my essence is sometimes I like to have a combination of humor and
yeah.
And just
you use the word effervescence. I remember that at the
collective
academy.
Effervescence.
Collective effervescence, and it's actually that's so.
Are you feeling that?
Well, yeah, very much so. What happens is, I think it's in Maslowian terms, when you claim the ground of psychological safety, you free up the energy from the bottom, and it naturally rises in effervescence through the belonging frame, and then coalesces in creative energy in the significance frame. So the humor is evidence that you've claimed the belonging frame. So I love it. I absolutely.
I believe a modern elder is someone who knows the perfect alchemy of levity,
Yes.
humor, and gravitas.
Yeah.
So levity is what lifts up.
Yeah.
Gravitas is what actually holds you down, grounds you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
element of like the helium of levity,
Yeah.
and the grounding nature of gravitas. And,
I love it.
so that's what's beautiful about you, Danny, is I'm doing my perfect little segue. So we're talking about you now, is you've always been that way. From everybody I know who's known you for a long time, say, this is a man who is a person who is vested in evidence-based research and helping take what's often stuck in the ivory towers of medical schools and making it practical for people. So there's a gravitas in that. And then there's that funny little laugh of yours. That South African sense of humor, that sense of like just being a little boy who just or just saw some little thing that gave you a sense of wonder, that sense of awe. You are, and then your natural ability to go to tears, whether the tears are from joy or from sadness.
They're from both, mostly from joy. A lot. It's actually mostly from joy, and because I think we have tears two ways. One, we have tears for loss and grief, but we have tears when we connect with something we know to be true. Something that we know to be true, and we reconnected with. There's a certain catharsis in that, and I've I often experience that, and certainly in this last, I am so blessed. I feel so blessed for my brain cancer because it has given me such a sense of catalytic meaning. I had no idea. I mean, I want to go into like all the things that are happening because of it, and which also brings. I'm building to an invitation. So let's because I just want, before I actually kind of go through an anecdote, you paid me the biggest compliment at the end of the retreat. We're co-leaders and co-facilitators at that Leading Well from Within retreat. You paid me the biggest compliment because I think I was the first co-leader that you actually graduated as a student.
It's true. That's true.
Yeah. And that for me was just because I was so a part of the group. I was so part of the group.
Not just that you're part of the group, because we've had many co-leaders who are part of the group, but because of your natural curiosity to learn from the group. And we've had other people who've learned from the group as well, but you were probably the most curious person in the group.
Yeah.
And when you have, so again, a modern elder is not just gravitas levity. A modern elder is the perfect alchemy of curiosity and wisdom.
Yeah.
And knowing when to up the ante on one versus the other. And that's what you did that week.
So talking about levity, I want to talk about gravitas now. All right. I want to pivot to gravitas and the gravitas of what you're doing. So I'm pivoting back to you. We're playing ping pong.
Ping pong, tennis, whatever.
Right. So what Chip has done, there are all these rites of passage. I mean, certainly when you're actually 13 and you have bar mitzvah, or you go through like baptism. What Chip has appreciated is that nowhere really has there been a rite of passage from middlesence into elderhood. And that is and it's a painful transition because most people burn out in middlesence, which I think is around 40s, right? 40s to 50s.
So middlesence, just so let's give some language to this. So adolescence, we're all familiar with.
Yes.
It's basically puberty, teen years. And here's the part that a lot of people don't know, that the word adolescence didn't exist before 1904. So you were an adult when you hit puberty.
Yeah.
So that means you got married, you had kids before you were 18, you worked in the mines or the factories.
Yeah.
And then adolescence came out as a book. concept. And next thing we knew, people were imagining that, yes, you should have child labor laws, and yes, you
Yeah.
shouldn't get married before you're 18, and etc. So middlescence is a new concept. And it's the sort of adult corollary to adolescence,
Yeah.
when you're going through physical, emotional, and hormonal changes, often between about age 45 and 55, which interestingly is also the period of time in the U curve of happiness when
Yes.
people tend to hit their bottom. Their bottom the average age of when people hit their sort of their emotional or satisfaction or happiness bottom in adulthood is about age 47.2.
Would that correlate? Would that NADA correlate with what you talk about, which is this concept of learn, earn, and burn? And so you're at the point of like the deepest part of your burn.
Yes, or you're actually you're actually at the deepest part of your earn, interestingly.
Oh,
So learn, earn, burn means learn, earn, retire, which is sort of how we've sort of seen life as a three-stage journey. You learn till you're 20 or 25, you earn till you're 65, and then
ah,
you retire till you die. Interestingly, 750 years ago, Rumi, famous Sufi poet and philosopher, said there are three phases to life: um, raw, cooked, and burned.
you're right.
And my point of view is, how about raw, cooked, burned, repeat?
Yeah, yeah,
Meaning that you can actually get raw again at 45 or at 50
yeah,
or 70 or 30 and start learning again. So
yeah.
that you're not actually just spending your life trying to make the most of what you learned at age 20 or 25, but you're actually, you can take time off, maybe even if finances will allow it, and
Right.
go deeper on a topic that is interesting to you. So yes, this is the curiosity is the elixir of life.
Yes. So one of the things, the overlap with kind of where we're at, right? I mean, I feel like in a weird way, my brain cancer has been catalytic for me to arrive at a place where I sense you've been for years, in that, well, first of all, if it's okay for me to share, we're actually, because I believe you've shared it in public already, we're actually fellow cancer patients.
Yes, yes.
And so, we have reverence for actually that sense of making every moment count. We have that raw presence in that, and that raw presence making every moment count. Actually, when you ask what matters now and making every moment count, you come down to two parts. What I came down to: live intensely loving relationships, make every moment count, be intensely in the cycles of receiving and giving love. Like, this is the only moment that counts right now. And we're in a cycle of receiving and giving love, which is just so nourishing. And I so appreciate it. And then it's about leaving our legacy with our work, or elevating our legacy in the work.
Our work and our being.
Yes, exactly. And it's interesting because what happens is there's a transition. When I think about midlife transition, and you've got a midlife wisdom school, what I'm sensing and what I've heard you say is it's a transition from success to significance.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a profound, because when you're in the success phase of our life, it's striving. And the ego's driving. It's striving with the ego driving.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to this place, if you're blessed enough to actually go through this time of reflection, or even a midlife crisis, that transition where I'm either going to have to, there's a kind of a burning platform over here. Things are going to burn down, or I'm going to have to shift.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can enter, you can choose transformation, which either comes through crisis, or you choose it.
Mm-hmm.
And what you've done is you've provided, a space for people to do either. So I imagine some people come to your school in crisis, and some people come out of curiosity and choice. They want to kind of move into that. But ultimately what they leave with is they leave the school, and I felt this as well. They leave the school with a greater sense of meaning in their lives. And even though that, we're in elderhood, with actually an elevated capacity to serve, because there's this midlife edit.
Yeah, well, first of all, let's give credit to my two co-founders, Jeff
Yeah.
Amui and Christine Sperber, because there's no way I could have done this by myself. They've been by my side and have had a huge catalytic effect on the 800 alumni from 24 countries we now have. But Carl Jung, the psychologist, spoke to the idea that the first half of your life is about, your operating system is your ego.
Yeah.
And then the second half of your adult life is your operating system is your soul.
Yeah.
And we don't really have much. I mean, first of all, the language of soul feels so abstract to most people. But secondly, we have no operating manual that tells you that you're about to shift your operating system. It's almost like moving from, I am been driving automatic and now I'm going to drive stick shift.
Right.
And I don't know how to drive stick shift.
Right.
And we sort of like push people into this stick shift way of life and they feel stupid.
Yeah.
And the midlife crisis is just really the evidence of that people actually in midlife are, I wrote a book called Emotional Equations. They are face to face with the equation disappointment equals expectations minus reality.
Yeah.
Where expectations have been here and reality is here and the difference is disappointment. And they don't know what to do with that, especially if you're a man, because women actually are so much better and better socialized at being able to address their feelings and often their disappointments.
Yeah.
So I would just say that if we're going to have more and more people living like very long lives, maybe till age 100, in fact, there's a great book called The 100-Year Life. We have to get a lot better at helping people to understand how they have relevance, how they have value in a world that more and more is prizing young people, not just in the fashion and entertainment or the sports world, but in almost any industry now, because generally speaking, all industries want to look like a tech company or a tech industry. And generally speaking, again, generalizing, the people who are most adept at tech are digital natives because they grew up with it. You and I are digital immigrants because we had to learn it.
Yes. And I've become like a ninja right now because I've got this YouTube channel. So I'm actually doing all my, literally editing movies on the iPhone at 4 o'clock in the morning. And
you're doing an amazing job, but let's go back to you for a second. I worry a little bit about you, Danny. So let me tell you why I worry. You have that depth, that you have that deep sense of urgency.
Yes.
That comes from your diagnosis.
Yeah.
The average person with your diagnosis lives 15 months, if I'm not mistaken, if that's correct.
Yes.
Bo and John McCain, Bo Biden, John McCain, same diagnosis. They no longer are living. And just as an FYI, I had a flatlight experience myself at age 47. So I died and came back. So I know, I get it. I get this urgency, the sense of, the thing I just want to make sure that you have time and space for, off camera, is the opportunity to metabolize the experience.
Well,
and maybe the metabolizing is happening in the course of the videos.
So can I show you I've got over here what you're saying is so true. And I have, I don't know if you can see.
It's a little bit off center there. Oh, there we go.
So
I saw. Listen, I've been watching. I already saw this.
So you've seen this. Okay.
I've seen it, dude. You told me to watch your videos, and I've been watching your videos.
So I tell you. So you're absolutely right. There's a certain energy of doing, around content experience. There's a certain energy of doing, and a certain energy of doing. What I love about it, we all need people in our lives to remind us of what we already know, right? So Khalil Gibran, you said you can't teach anybody anything new, but what is that and this is what you're reminding, not only me, but everybody on the call, to make time for high quality reflection, which involves an attitude and actually a choreography of question. And I know that we have a shared love for appreciative inquiry. So I also, let me just, I want to be responsible.
That was very impressive. I have no idea how you did what you just did. Okay. So you are my tech god now, because you did.
Let me just see if I can show you a little bit of my tech. You know what? I turned the slide around. I'm going to just have.
Don't worry. Let's wait. You know what, Danny? I don't care. Actually, let's come back to you.
This is my this is my tech setup. You know, so
Oh my gosh.
it's anyway, but um, so what we're doing in the channel, I'm very, here's my sense of urgency. I know I've got an elevated platform. You know, when you're talking about, you know, with this contraction, with a potential contraction, you know, what nourishes my soul is the sense that I can actually have it for a brief period of time, because there's, as I'm going through my chemotherapy and my radiation therapy, there's lifespan, and then there's another track within that, which is optimal efficacy. So I don't know at what point I'm going to have an event where I actually lose my ability to be fully creative. That's actually, it's not that lifespan. It's just, it's not knowing.
Is that your biggest fear?
Well, you know, the thing is, what took me into the hospital was word block. And, you know, it was immediately grieving, not because, you know, when I got this word block, I grieved the loss of my ability to be effective. So it was like, I didn't know, like literally, I was talking to a coaching client and I couldn't get my words out. I mean, I was 10 minutes into the call. I've never had that. So I want you to just imagine, like, kind of just what that experience is like. It's like, ooh, ooh, ooh. Like I couldn't get the words out. And so that's what took me into the hospital. And, you know, I knew there was something wrong, but I grieved more because I grieved the immediate loss of efficacy. And it happened in about, you know, it was happening kind of like it was, you know, looking back, was nibbling out of 3 days. But that was my grief response. It wasn't the cancer. It was my inability to be effective. Mm. So that gives me a sense of urgency now. So let me tell you what happened, which was really kind of interesting. This is the incredibly weird thing. So I've just I'm admitted to the ward, and I don't sleep at all that night, but I've come around asking a generative question. I'm actually feeling good. And then Sue miraculously, they let Sue come to the hospital, and because I only slept one night, I fall asleep at like noon, and I have a brain biopsy set up for about 4 o'clock that afternoon, and they don't let me eat. So I haven't eaten anything since 24 hours. So I fall asleep, and I had this unbelievable experience where I woke up from darkness in bright light, but my face had pulled to the right. And I had, for a brief moment, thinking, oh, fuck, I'm having a stroke. This is it. And it was actually terrifying because I was fully conscious. And then I had this experience where I was like, I was in a wipe. You know that feeling you get when you, I know, fellow surfer, the worst wipeout, and you held down and you can't. And then there's a moment of release. There's that moment of release. So I then go from that feeling, and I'm fully conscious, and I just can't get out. And then I have to relax in, and then it actually eases up. It eases up. And I realized I was having a seizure. That's the first time I've ever had a seizure. It was the wildest ride, but here's the miracle.
So you actually did have a seizure.
I had a seizure, yeah. I can't drive for 6 months. I'm on anti-seizure medications right now. And, but here's the miracle. Essentially what I got was nature's electroshock therapy. It reset my brain and it discharged my word block. And I've been fluent ever since.
Wow.
That was profound. And so like, until that point, I couldn't talk. And then I actually had a seizure and it discharged it. And so, you know, that sense of urgency is, you know, it's always hanging out there because I have and I understand it right now, I have a lesion in my premotor strip and then deep in my brain. And I think it's in the premotor strip because it's not that I can't find the words, it's that I can't initiate to get them out of my mouth.
Is there any possibility you could go into remission?
Yes. You know, so I've been getting, in the last videos, I've just put up a video where I met with Dr. T, my radiation oncologist.
That was yesterday, right?
No. Literally, I got home, I filmed in the office, and it's up online. So literally that's what happens. I film and it's up online. And you see me getting my first radiation therapy. It's really just, and I spoke to Dr. Barnett last night, who's the director of neuro-oncology, and she was very encouraging. You know, she said, look, yes, it's 15 months. You know, that's the average, but you're not average. and both of them are actually use the word cure. So, which is unheard of as far as I know for GBM. I haven't seen, that, but so there's that possibility that I could be the patient. And I'm also, I'm really getting, and I'm early on, I ended the call and, with this idea that I wanted to give patients hope. And I was just, I said to them, I want you to know what the envelope of conventional medicine looks like and the envelope of integrative holistic medicine. And I've been thinking since I put that video up, and I want to offer an apology because I'm privileged. I'm really, because of, I'm a doctor, there's not everybody has access to this care. At least I want people to know what's available at the envelope of knowledge and really encourage them to advocate as strong as they can for this combination. So it's, if there's one person that can beat it, and then, what they're telling me is when you look at those case series, those case series are filled with patients who are on fear. And so those patients are running a different kind of neurochemistry, right? They're running cortisol and they're running adrenaline, and that's, that has effect on tumor growth. I'm running an entirely different chemistry because I have no fear. I have hope and optimism, and there's a different kind of neurochemistry. So if there's any one person that may be able to beat it, it's me. Now I know I'm setting myself up because if I die quickly, I may be letting a lot of people down. But
Yeah, but you know what? If you have two choices, to
Yeah.
live this way and to die this way, or to live the alternative way and just sort of accept that you're going to die, why would you do anything but the way you're going?
There's a pivot point when you get serious news. We all go through inflection points in our life. There's a pivot point. The brain, as you know, the brain is safety first. So it's going to suck you down into, it's almost automatic. It's like, why me? Why now? What if every catastrophe? Your brain's going to do that anyway because it's safety first. So if you discipline at yourself at the pivot point to ask a generative question, literally the questions we ask at our inflection points. David Cooper Ryder, Appreciative Inquiry, said words and questions create worlds. So that the questions or the words you use at your pivot point, it's the difference between a world of suffering or a world of flourishing at that pivot point. And so the miracle, because I've gone through this exchange approach, which is, this community is amazing. I was primed in my work to ask the question, what matters most now? I mean, and I'm thinking in modern elderhood, what a question is that? Like that's a lot of the questions in terms of when you transition from, middlesence into modern elderhood. It's like, what matters most now? And that drives a lot of midlife editing and a lot of choices that you make in that transition. So we're doing the same work. I love, you have a daily newsletter that is like food for the soul.
It's called Wisdom Well. And
yeah. By the way, is that only available for alumni, or can anybody?
No, it's anybody. You can just go to the Modern Elder Academy on modernelderacademy.com.
Okay, so I'm below this video, I'm going to put a series, anything that you want me to kind of hyperlink to. Yeah,
the Wisdom Well website. It's a daily email that's sent to you for free, and it's just a little microdose of wisdom. Just something that either I've written, or most of the time it's me, but it's not always. It's like guest faculty. It's Jeff and Christine as my co-founders. It's all kinds of people.
I highly recommend that. You're prolific. Really prolific. The fact you can do it. Well, that's why I got cancer. That's why now I know, because it's like I'm doing a daily thing. But you also have a fierce sense of urgency.
I do. I had a flatline experience. I was allergic to an antibiotic and had a broken ankle and a septic leg, and I was giving a speech and went flatline on stage after the speech, after signing books. And you haven't. And I had that. I was 47, age 47. I'm 60 now. So 13 years ago almost. And there was an element for me is like, okay, it really shifted my life completely. I knew that the things I was doing, many things I was doing, I needed to edit. And I also just knew that you never know, Danny. You just don't know. I knew that I don't know. Right. And I better, when I feel something passionately, I better be all in. And at the same time, so for me, the all in more recently has been the sense of how do you help people repurpose themselves? How do you help people shift their mindset on aging?
Yeah.
How do you help, address ageism in the global workplace?
Yeah.
Um, and how do you create a community around that? How do you help people to
Well,
feel like they're not alone?
speaking of community, you know, I'd like to actually transition to the invitation.
Yes,
Okay.
please.
So did you see the video with Susie?
Susie, I know Susie, and it was fun to watch you and the four women fawning over you. Some of them saying that you're devastatingly handsome. That was embarrassing, but you know what? It's true. And they yes, and Susie, to actually have a living well from within initiative
Yeah,
is a big deal, and
it is a big deal. And
shows how much they love you and
yeah,
appreciate it.
yeah. So, the gift of that, because initially I'd been talking about one of the main purposes of the Living Well from Within channel was to create a coalition. I just have this vision that none of us can do it alone. None of us can do it alone, but together we can actually be influential. And the gift of what Susie's provided us, it's a place where we can convene. And I know that you have a lot, you're part of Burning Man, right? Burning Man is a convening experience.
Yes, it is.
So it's, this initiative will allow us to convene, whether it's online, but also in person. And so did you see the Whole Health Institute, the video with the Whole Health Institute with Dr. Tracy Gaudet and Dr. Laurie Knudsen?
Well, I didn't see that. What I saw is your 11-minute video precursing to that, and I think you were talking about Alice Walton as well.
Yes, exactly. So when you watch the next one, because what's really beautiful, I'm actually when I have people on, I let them introduce each other because they can do so much better job. And you hear just the extraordinary, because Tracy Gaudet ran the healthcare revolution within the Veterans Administration, the integrative healthcare revolution, and just created this whole health program. And it is extraordinary. And it's not lost on me that a lot of the vets are now in midlife. So a lot of us are doing very similar work in different, slightly different brands, and it's got brand uniqueness, but this cross-pollination. I know you've spoken about the value of cross-pollination.
For sure.
So I extended the invitation to Tracy and Laurie on behalf of Alice Walton, and they accepted to join the initiative. They're a founding member, and I would be honored if you would accept the second invitation. Okay.
Count us in. Yes.
Okay. Awesome.
Count me and us in. And yeah, I think I've always loved, from the time I met you, your work. And so to love your work in the passion of how you're actually giving it away to others, and then to love your work and how you're integrating it into your own life, and through your own curiosity, becoming better as a result of that, whether it's both mentally better, physically better. We're all pulling for you that actually it means, that the cancer does go into remission. But more than anything, to be in that state of legacy, to actually give to people. Erik Erikson, the famous developmental psychologist, said, "I am what survives me." Well, we will all die. So the question is, what will survive me or you, Danny?
Well, let me share. This initiative certainly will now within the Global Wellness Institute, for sure, because I don't have to be around for that. There's an infrastructure to support that. But what I want to do, and the urgency, is to create a coalition. So I want to paint a picture. And also invite you to Israel, because that's where the next summit is.
Next November.
Yeah, next November. And I'm just imagining us all in a room together. The leaders of flourishing movements, and the midlife wisdom school. When I'm talking about leading well from within, when I'm talking about healing, growth, and creating flourishing wellness within yourself and in the world, I think that could quite easily speak to exactly what you're doing. Would that be a fair statement?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's looking for, even conscious capitalism could say the same thing. So there are many organizations, the Academy of Integrative Health and Medicine, So I'm imagining us all coming together in Israel, and if that doesn't, if still COVID is like rampant, I mean, coming together online for some experience. And I'm imagining it being held in a container where we're all gathering together and sparking on each other. And what really gets me, I mean, I have a certain amount of creativity in my work. You have a certain amount of creativity in your work. But the real value is unlocking collective wisdom, allowing people to spark on each other to actually unleash something far more than any of us could have imagined. John Berghoff talks about this idea of communal capital. It means that ultimately when people gather in service of something larger than themselves and bring the best of what they have, we co-create to an even greater impact. And you come back to your Modern Elder Academy with whole new levels of inspiration that comes back and enriches your curriculum and vice versa. It's just this beautiful generative thing. So what really gets me, what really fires me up is to just convene. And again, because you've done the work of convening. You've had some of the largest Airbnb, you've convened people. Right. You know the power of convening. And just let, I have a vision, that the exchange community, which is kind of the leading community in actually facilitating appreciative inquiry, that they hold the space for these, really world-class conversations, choreographed world-class conversations that lead to very specifically a certain element of discovery. So what is the purpose of us being here together? What are our collective strengths? And then going into, what are we imagining for a better future? What are we imagining for a better future? What is, and I'm mindful in Susie's ecosystem, the thing is joining together to shape the future. So what is that glorious future at this time, at this very specific time where we have, COVID isolation, we have systemic racism. I mean, we've had systemic racism for 400 years, but, it's certainly more awakened now. We have political polarization. I mean, not only in America, globally. Mm-hmm. What is it, to imagine a better future that involves healing, growth, flourishing wellness? What will it take? And if you assemble a coalition, the collective, I trust the collective wisdom and the collective emergence will contribute to a meaningful way. And then on top of that, if we have a way of inviting political leaders in, so, my dream is, because I had the same cancer as Beau Biden's son, that he might show up at some point and say, this is a meaningful, because he had the cancer moonshot. Yeah. And he's invested in me. I mean, I have this wish to be able to hold, when it's COVID side, embrace President-elect Joe Biden with a hug. I want to kind of and say, I'm so sorry for your loss. I'm so sorry for your loss. Because I'm mindful that I'm about the age that Beau Biden would have been at round about now, a few years off, but, and actually in some small way, I would love to gift him some, dedication that somehow a lot of this initiative, could be dedicated to his son. There's something, so he can feel a sense of investment and meaning in the endeavor. So that's part of my dream in terms of the scale of this. And we'll see how because this is a cosmic script, it's not, I'm actually not writing any of it myself. I feel that it's coming through me at this time. Mm-hmm. So Chip, you have you really are one of the wisest people I know. You really are one of the wisest people I know. You've evolved to this place in your life of distilled wisdom, and you communicate that. And so the thought to have somebody of your wisdom and humility combination, it's an interesting combination, right? You have wisdom and humility.
I think wisdom almost requires humility.
Yes, indeed.
And let me just start by saying, I appreciate what you've said, and I am not perfect at it by any stretch of the imagination. Ask Jeff and Christine.
Okay. Well, look, we all have this reactive, creative oscillation, and yes. It's not the absence of reactivity that actually creates wisdom. What it is, it's your ability to catch the reactivity and pivot back. And it's how long does that take?
Yes, it's the consciousness, and it's also Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. That my favorite three sentences. It's actually not in the book. It's supposedly something he wrote later. He said, between stimulus and response, there is a space.
Yes.
In that space is our power to choose our response. And
Yeah.
in our response lies our growth and our freedom.
Indeed.
And to me, those three sentences, I'm going to say them again because actually they're a gift, I hope, to anybody who's listening and watching right now. Between stimulus and response, there is a space, not a reaction.
Yeah.
There's a space. In that space is your power to choose your response,
Mm. Mm.
not your reaction, your response, responsibility.
Yeah.
And in your response lies your growth and your freedom. For us to be able to embed that principle, those three sentences in our lives, is to me the ultimate form of wisdom,
Yeah.
because it does speak to the idea of being able to digest and metabolize and use just the right timing. You can anesthetize yourself so you don't react, but then you actually don't even feel.
Yeah.
And much of it, sometimes that's what we do. We use depression, we use alcohol, we use a lot of things to actually deaden the response, the reaction, because the reactivity is freaking us out. So
Yeah.
we deaden it, but
Yes.
that doesn't make us alive.
Yeah.
And so to be able to feel it and not react, to know that with some additional time, we can actually be better able to respond and maybe actually take some instinct, intuition, and wisdom as seasoning to our response,
Yeah.
is what it means to become a mature human being.
Yeah. Indeed. That was actually the glorious thrill about being down there and actually seeing an integration of that, because there's something in terms of a ripening of, the work.
Mm.
When I talk this program that I've just done for the exchange community on awakening conscious leadership
Mhm.
is exactly what you've described.
Mm.
And it's none of, there's so many wonderful, nobody owns the framework. We're all tapping into the field in our own way.
Mhm.
And the way I express, conscious leadership, first of all, it's conscious leadership is an act of influence. It's an act of influence. And the awakening of conscious leadership it's an understanding that it's influence in the connected to noble purpose, because Hitler was a very influential leader. So it has to be anchored to some noble purpose. And then, through the neuroscience, is the revelation that you cannot not have influence. You cannot not have influence. And so it's not even about becoming, you have influence regardless. And we lead in every way. We lead as parents, we lead as, in our friends groups. And yes, we lead at work as well, but we lead at every touch point, every way that we touch somebody. So the awakening that you're describing right now, that awakening that you're so eloquently describing right now, is the awakening to what kind of influence am I having right now? Am I having positive influence or am I having negative influence? And it's bearing the responsibility of that awakening, that awareness. It's bearing the responsibility. With that awareness comes responsibility. And that's the choice point. Do I want to, in that awareness, in that gap, do I want to choose essentially being a dick, or do I want to choose to elevate myself and actually, be engaged in a different way? And there's even another question, which you can ask: do I want to show up as a positive influence, or do I want to show up as a negative influence, like right now in this moment? And there's another question that you can unpack and go even deeper into that. Do I want to show up as a demand, or do I want to show up as a resource to somebody?
That's the best question I've heard of the ones you've just said. And the reason I say that is because a lot of times people think of positive and negative influence as nice versus not nice.
Exactly.
And let's just recognize that sometimes the best influence, the most positive influence you can have, is to tell the truth.
Yes.
With candor and maybe even in an unvarnished way.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean you're a jerk in saying it. It means you're respectful, but that you're actually direct. And so what I appreciated about your last point was, are you a resource versus what was the other one? Resource or
Are you a demand?
Demand or a resource? Yeah, to be in a place where we're in service to others, we are in resource to others.
Yes.
Is if we believe in what I call karmic capitalism, but just if we believe in reciprocity,
Yeah.
and we live in a world where the welcome mat we put out to others is what we get back from them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I want to come back to this idea about being nice, as well, because, it's, and it is, sometimes we do a disservice to others by being nice, where we're saying the karmic capital is actually looks very different than what we imagined it to be. And so I have this favorite, I've modified a quote from Lencioni, because Patrick Lencioni talks about destructive conflict and artificial harmony. So what I've done is I've created an expansion of that. And I say the flow channel of growth runs in the river of creative abrasion between the banks of destructive conflict and artificial harmony.
Yes, yes.
So that creative abrasion, we've got to trust that
it's the perfect exfoliation.
Yes.
It's like going. I don't do this, but going to the spa,
yeah,
get exfoliated, and it's a little bit painful, and yet you feel fresher and cleaner and newer and energized by it.
Yeah, it is enlivening. It's, when you have some where you can stand in that, and interestingly enough, the safer bank to swim towards is the bank of destructive conflict, because you can always step over, and if you have good conflict resolution skills, you can make yourself stronger at that bank. The more dangerous bank is artificial harmony. It's when everybody nods and there's a silent erosion. There's a silent erosion it's disconnected in some way. So I really appreciate the wisdom of what you're sharing about that. It's not about being nice, it's about being effective. It's about being effective and in service.
It is. So let's, since I've got to go in a few minutes.
I know, yeah.
What can we do beyond me? Forget about what I can do, because I'm there to support. What can those watching do to be supportive to you?
Well, I think, I've been mentioning one of the things that they can do is just subscribe. But I made actually a new video today that is going to set the foundation for this. And it's a longer video, it's on the longer side, but it's a really important video because that sets the context. And what I'm saying to that, it's very, if you resonate with this message, I'm not looking for just subscribers for subscribers' sake, but I'm looking to build a coalition of meaning. And so actually, interesting enough, the first video is long because it becomes a selection tool, people that, it's, so for those that actually are invested in wanting to join a coalition of be a part, even if by clicking a button and then actually watching or binge watching all the videos, and if they're inspired, only if they're inspired, sending and blessing their friends. That's the way we build, there is numbers count, numbers matter. So I'm following my platelet counts and my red blood count, but I'm also following my subscriber count, because I know, and because somebody has said to me when I was trying to reach Joe Biden, President-elect Joe Biden, they said, well, how many subscribers do you have? So I know that's a key question, because of wanting to actually have influence, but not influence for myself. My ability to actually shine a light on like the good work of you doing in the Modern Elder Academy. So it's a very simple ask. I'm getting a lot of beautiful things being sent to me that are very nourishing, and there are these interludes finding their way into the channel. I don't know if you've noticed these interludes. So there are people sending me songs. I haven't put it up yet, but I've got kids praying for me in Africa. So it's nourishing to the soul. So, it's a simple ask. I mean, if you feel moved, subscribe, and send it out to your network. And let's create something viral. But I want to say that I have been so nourished by you, personally. I mean, first I've been nourished about, I want to really encourage people to sign up to your newsletter. I mean, that's a no-brainer. Please do. And you'll send me the information. I'll put the links below the video here, because I want people to know about you, Chip, and I want to basically shine a light on the great work that you're doing. And, we have a placeholder. I believe I'm coming down there in June, and you very kindly, I hope I'll be in good space, and I'm going to bring my wife Sue down, And I hope that room overlooking the ocean, which you put me in, is available. That is, oh my God, let me just tell you, that where you put me up last time, it was beyond. So what I'm most nourished by is that because I mean, I don't think we would be having this chat if it wasn't for my cancer. It just wouldn't have lined up this in quite the same way.
Right.
And I just am so blessed that I have the opportunity at this moment in my time where I can actually be here speaking to you now in the cycle of receiving and giving love, not only for our nourishment, but for the nourishment of everyone. That's, you know, everyone listening, because I want to bring people in my life and people into my life that I've been blessed by. And I want to bring all these people into my life and actually now bring the blessing of those people to you. And so I really hope that Chip and I have served you well tonight. And Chip, we'll just offline, we will talk about next steps in terms of, you know, strategy. We'll create a placeholder for the possibility. We'll be meeting Jeff and Christine, because I think it would be really, I would love to share more about what your vision and what your strategy and where the Modern Elder Academy is going. And I think that's a very valuable service, so that if people are looking for a midlife wisdom school, they'll know in a much more granular way what you are about. And in the meantime, you know, please visit Modern Elder Academy. Do you want to, what's the website will be done? Do you want to mention?
modernelderacademy.com. That's
beautiful.
fine.
Yeah, please do yourself a favor. If you're called to actually, you know, go through a profound experience in your midlife so that you can move from success to significance, do yourself a favor and please connect with Chip and the incredible. And I also want to just, the people that you've surrounded yourself by, it's a family. I mean, it's not just Jeff and Christine. I mean, everybody on your staff. And I think staff is a wrong, what do you call, I mean, do you call?
We'll call them the colaboradores. Because
the colaboradores, you know.
Colaboradores in Spanish, especially in Mexico, in Latin America, you say you're collaborators.
Well, isn't that glorious? So actually now what we're doing is we're expanding the community of collaboration. And now we're actually in a collaboration of healing movements and flourishing wellness, you know, together. And so I just feel blessed to partner with you and to collaborate with you.
Love you, Danny. Just, you know, thank you for being a role model.
Yeah.
And, look forward to what's next.
Yeah.
All right.
Me too, Chip.
Mwah.
Lots of love.
All right.
Lots of love.
All right. Thank you.